What is going on, guys? This is David from Aquawater, and welcome back to another One Piece chapter review. This week we're reviewing chapter 1009 titled Naraku, or as I have been calling it, Spoiler Hell, because it was impossible. Like, from the Tuesday before it came out, it was impossible to go on anime Twitter and not see spoilers for this chapter everywhere. And listen, I get it. It was a totally hype chapter. You know, we'll get to talking about the hype things when it actually comes up in my review. But I was a little bit bummed. I've been doing pretty good about not spoiling myself for the chapters. I always wait for the official release to come out on Sundays, and then this review is obviously going out pretty late because of some issues that I had, but you know, I always try not to talk about things in my videos or even on Twitter until the actual official chapter release on Sunday, or, you know, whenever it is. It's normally Sunday around noon Eastern time. But yeah, so with that being said, we're just going to, you know, scroll past the spoilers and we're going to start talking about the chapter. We're going to start with the big color spread, which was actually based on a reader request for Otama and Komachiyo putting Amigasa woven hats on the little Jizo statues, which were all supposed to look like the straw hats. Now, Oda didn't exactly do this for the cover spread, but what he did, I think I actually like much better. We did get all of those kind of elements of what he asked for, or what the reader asked for in this spread, but instead it's like a full, like, straw hat crew spread, you know, and Otama is there and Komachiyo is there. It's a nice snowy day, everyone's bundled up in jackets, and they're putting hats on the Jizo statues. I really like this color spread a lot. It's always good. I love seeing Jinbei in the straw hat spreads now, since he is actually now officially part of the crew. There was tons of theory fodder that came out of the spread, because once again, this is the second time within the Wano arc that we actually see, and granted, this isn't in the arc proper, it is just a spread, but this is the second time that we've gotten the straw hat with Tama. You know, there was the part back in Act 1 where Tama was wearing the straw hat, and now in this spread, she's taken the straw hat to put on one of the Jizo statues. So a lot of people are theorizing Tama for straw hat. I don't want Tama to join the crew. I think she has a place. I know who, if anybody joins the crew out of this arc, I know who I want it to be, and I think that it will be Yamato. But yeah, I think that Tama is going to stay behind in Wano with Momo. But I digress. Moving into the actual chapter at large, we get into the first page is we see that the castle is on fire, which we knew about from the last chapter. You know, we got that big reveal that Orochi was running around setting the castle on fire, and the Beast Pirates are trying their best to kind of combat this. They're, you know, yelling like, put out the flames, douse it with water, like, everyone go get water, we need water now. And then we get to see right under the title page Naraku, which I will say now that Naraku is a Japanese term for hell, which kind of harkens back to, at the end of last chapter, we had the rooftop gang, the five up on the rooftop, talking about how they were in hell facing down Big Mom and Kaido. So this is kind of a callback to that. And but right under that, we get this big long panel of Orochi and the samurai, or what's left of the samurai after having lost Ashura Doji and Inuarashi in the last chapter, facing down each other on opposite sides. They're both moving in different directions. And so we get to see Kinemon react to Orochi being alive, and we get to see Orochi call out for Kinemon, reacting to him. And Fukurokuju is there, of course. We saw him with Orochi in the last chapter, and he tells Orochi, he's like, listen, they didn't get to see you die, because this is the first time that the samurai are actually seeing, or the scabbards are actually seeing Orochi in this whole raid on Onigashima. And he says, listen, flee from here, you keep going, like, go back, I'll stay here, I'll stop them from following you. And Orochi, in his boundless hubris, just turns around and, you know, is yelling at Fukurokuju. He's like, listen, silence, you fool, like, I'll be surrounded no matter where I go. If I go back, I have to face the Beast Pirates. If I go forward, you know, the scabbards stand in my way. And he says, but listen, I can see that Kaido softened them up, so even I will have no problem killing them. And he starts yelling at the scabbards, and he's laughing, and he says, so tell me, all you Kozuki leftovers, did I catch you by surprise with Kanjuro? You know, because Kanjuro is, of course, the spy for Orochi. And then he calls out to Denjiro, and he says, you got me too, though, Kyoshiro, so let us overlook all these past treacheries, because Denjiro for many years was posing as the Yakuza boss Kyoshiro underneath Orochi so that he could keep Hiyori safe. And then he starts to transform, and he says, I have nothing to fear from you now in your wounded state. I will devour every last one of you. After 20 years of trembling at your ghosts, you will feel my wrath. And then there's this amazing little panel of, you just see Kinemon, because remember what I said in the last chapter review, Kinemon is done messing around. He has this serious, like, no more games type attitude now. And this look that he's given, he's got the shading over his eyes, he's drawing his samurai, and the whole time that this is happening, really, really awesome detail that Oda's throwing in here. We see the babangs from the shamisen. So I can't wait to actually see this part animated when it gets to the anime, which I've been saying a lot about scenes in the Wano arc, but honestly, like, Oda is on fire with his scene directing in these chapters. And so on the immediate follow-up from Kinemon drawing his scabbard, or drawing his sword, you just see this big panel and all of the scabbards just slice off Orochi's heads. And now, I don't think that this is the end of Orochi. So many people have said it in their reviews now that it's pointless for me to even kind of like reiterate it here, because I feel like everyone just kind of knows at this point. I said in my last review that I think that Orochi being alive is setting up for Hiyori or Momo. I think an actual Kozuki needs to slay Orochi, because that will bring that story full circle. We do already know that Hiyori said that she wants to, if she can, kill Orochi. And that would bring it the whole full circle with Orochi killing off Komurasaki, and then Komurasaki being Hiyori, she would then kill Orochi. But so they cut off, I believe, 6 heads, and I think that Oda specifically had them cut off 6 heads, because so the 1 head from Kaido, the 6 heads from the scabbards, that would leave him just with 1 head left, or 2, depending on whether it's 8 or 9. I have been thinking that it's 8 heads, so that would leave him with just 1 head left. And then there is this shot, which is on the next page, which I will get to, because we have this reaction from Fukurokuju. He's just like yelling out, like, can't believe that Orochi has just been sliced down. And then the scabbards are just kind of walking past Fukurokuju and Orochi's body as it's tumbling to the ground, and they're sheathing all their katanas and just saying, we have no time to waste on the likes of you, Orochi. Your judgment will be served in hell. Calling back to the title being hell as well. But then we get, this is the panel that I was talking about, we get this very clear shot of Orochi's severed head, which is the same thing that Oda did last time, and he kept doing to kind of hint that Orochi might be alive, that we kept going back to this severed head. So I definitely do not think that Orochi is actually dead. I think that this is kind of setting up for the same thing where maybe in order to properly kill him, given the nature of his fruit, every single one of his heads needs to be decapitated. So like I said, he either has 1 or 2 heads left after this attack. So that would set him up for, like I said, either Hiyori or Momo to go in and get the killing blow on him. And then yeah, so moving on from that, we get another thing, which I didn't say this in my last review, but I do believe that Oda is now, over the next couple chapters, he's going to also be kind of the way that in Dressrosa we had the Colosseum fighters breaking off and getting their own individual fights. I think that every single one of the scabbards along the way to find Kanjuro will end up getting split off from the group, and I don't know how many of them are going to die. I don't know if I do think that some of the scabbards will die. I do definitely think that Ashura Doji from the last chapter is dead, but we see Raizo has stayed behind, and he's talking to Fukurokuju, and he says, will you avenge him? And he kind of gets in his ninja stance, and he says, I must say, Fukurokuju, my opinion of you has risen. You've remained loyal to that fool to the very end. And Fukurokuju does the same thing, gets his little ninja signs out and says, I would say the same to you, but even before matters of revenge, you and I were always fated to fight, weren't we, Raizo? So now we have this whole Raizo-Fukurokuju fight, which is going to happen, ninja battle, which I'm so down for. We have the whole, it was just a little line dropped in Oden's backstory about the relationship between Raizo and Fukurokuju, but hopefully that's going to be a little bit expanded on over the course of their fight. I'm really hyped for that. I think it's a good direction. I do still think, I don't know who everyone else is going to end up being paired off with, but I do think that it's definitely going to come down to just Kinemon versus Kanjuro, and that is I am 100% certain of that. The Kinemon's going to be the one to eventually cut down Kanjuro. But so now, after dealing with the samurai and dealing with Orochi, we cut back up to the rooftop. And we see Big Mom is talking to Kaido, and Big Mom says, "Oh, let's give him a big one, Kaido." And he says, "How many of the 5 do you think will survive this?" And starts laughing. And we get a little bit of clarification here, which I saw online that some people weren't really happy about, but I thought it totally made sense, because, you know, Oda is doing his best trying to blend the 2 power systems that he has introduced into the series with, like, balancing how certain devil fruit powers work with, like, their weird abilities in relation to Haki. But we actually finally get an explanation here as to why Law can't just use his seemingly broken power to just completely end this fight. Like, so many people online have been talking about, like, oh, well, you know, why doesn't Law just go in there and switch Big Mom and Kaido's personality so neither of them know how to use their powers like he did with Smoker and Tashigi and with the Straw Hats back in Punk Hazard, you know? But so we actually get, I think it's Kid that's asking him. It's not super clear, but I think it is Kid. And he just says, "Trafalgar, can you use your powers to send them down below?" And Law responds by saying, "I would have done that already if I could have. Like, don't you think I would have already done that? But their Haki is so strong that it's impossible for me to move them around." So we do get, like I said, a little bit of clarification here. Law's powers are very broken, but it all depends on the strength of the enemy that he is facing. So, like, if he's facing just a nobody Marine, obviously he can use his power without even thinking about it. But he needs to himself be stronger than his opponent's Haki in order to use his powers willy-nilly on them. So I'm pretty satisfied with that. I think it offers a very good explanation. I really like when Oda tries to, like I said, blend the 2 power systems. And I think he did it really well in this case. But then so Kid says, in response to that, well, and if that's the case, it's time to disassemble. And Luffy, pulling out his future sight Haki, observation Haki here, just yells out to them and says, "Listen, here comes something big. Like, everyone get ready." And you see Big Mom and Kaido. They're both winding up. Big Mom's got Napoleon up. Kaido's got his Kanabo up, and Kaido is kind of taunting Big Mom and is saying, like, "I trust that your core strength hasn't gone weak in your old age." And Big Mom is like, "Well, who do you think you're sassing now, boy?" And so Zoro yells out, "Uh-oh, guys, this one's going to be bad." Killer's yelling, there's no way to avoid it. You get Kaido in his hybrid form, reel him back, Big Mom reel him back, and they both launch an attack called Conquest of the Sea. And this is very, very similar to the attack that Dory and Brogy used all the way back in Little Garden, where they used that, I think it was called Hakoku Sovereignty back then, which is, we've already said that Big Mom referenced that with her Ikoku Sovereignty, just a few chapters ago. But this is definitely, like, more like what they did there, where they just punched that hole right through the Island Eater so that the Straw Hats could get through and continue on their way to, they ended up going to Drum Island. But, so yeah, they launch this attack, Conquest of the Sea. You get to see a little bit of the damage that Onigashima is taking. It looks like, honestly, it's like propelling Onigashima, like if it had hit anything that it hits is being absolutely disintegrated in its way. And both Kaido and Big Mom are super surprised because you actually see Zoro, the absolute goat, and this was the bit that I was spoiled on, is just, he's standing there, he's got a sword in his mouth, both of his swords crossed in front of him, and he's just holding back the attack, and he's just yelling out, "Everyone move. If you don't move, we are all done for. Like, if we get hit by this," and everyone runs out of the way, boom, huge explosion. The attack actually goes through, and you do get to see that all of them are fine. After all the reaction shots from all of them desperately running to get out of the way, you see one of the reaction shots of, like, Zoro. He's, like, trying really, really hard to hold this attack back. And then you see Kaido, and he's telling Big Mom their voices haven't gone out, referencing, of course, he's using observation Haki to make sure if they're okay, kind of the same way that Kobe did all the way back in Marineford. And Big Mom says, like, "Yeah, they got away, huh? Very impressive." And you see Law is basically asking Zoro, he's like, "Hey, are you still alive?" And Zoro's coughing, and he's like, "I think so." But before I continue with what everyone's saying here, I just want to say, like, man, this was awesome. This was super hype. I love Zoro. Zoro is my favorite Straw Hat, so maybe I'm a little bit biased, but, like, the fact that he was able to tank an attack from Big Mom, like, I love the debate that goes on, the Zoro versus Sanji. I love that rivalry. I love the rivalry that the community has. But honestly, at this point, it's over. Like, Sanji cannot compare. to what Zoro's doing. And maybe like I said, just because I'm a Zoro fanboy, I'm a little bit biased there, but like, you're gonna tell me that Sanji like could have blocked a combined Yonko attack like that and come out like relatively unscathed? And granted, he would not have come out unscathed. I do thoroughly believe that at the very last second, Law used his power to move him out of the way of danger, but he was able to hold back that attack just long enough for all of the rooftop gang to get out of the way and completely avoid harm. And that would have been a game over. Like, no more, they're done, if they had been hit by that attack. And he managed to hold it back just long enough. What a feat. What an amazing feat. And like I said, I did get spoiled on that. And I totally understand why that was hype enough that everyone was talking about this. But like, come on. Like, oh. But yeah, anyway, so back to that panel, Law's asking Zoro if he's all right. Zoro's coughing and he says, yeah, I think I'm okay. And then Kid actually recognizes, what a feat that was. He says, it's a real feat that you blocked that, if only for a second. Thanks, man. And then Killer is like, where's Straw Hat? Where's Luffy at? And you see Luffy didn't waste any time. He is right back into the fray. He's stretching his arm back, going straight for Kaido. Gum, red, and then his fist flies past Kaido's head because Kaido dodges out of the way, and Luffy doesn't even finish his attack name. He just starts laughing. He's got this big grin on his face, like such a Luffy moment, because he realizes, and he says in the very next panel, did you just dodge that one, Kaido? Because it was gonna hurt, wasn't it? Which, yes, just like Luffy was saying in the last chapter, this is it. Like, their attacks are having effect, and Kaido knew he had to dodge that because it was gonna hurt him, even though he is in his hybrid form. And so Kaido doesn't waste any time. He's not gonna let Luffy smack talk him like that. He rushes forward, raises up his Kanabo. Luffy tries to dodge, and boom, armament hockeys up his arms. Boom, gets hit by the Kanabo, gets sent flying, and he's doing that thing that he did with I believe it was Katakuri in Whole Cake, where his hands are like steaming from having blocked the attack. Like, it did hurt him, but he was fairly protected from the attack. And then Kaido's, I want to say, during this fight sequence, Kaido's hybrid form looks amazing. Like, the huge long tail, the way that he is maneuvering around, he rushes forward at Luffy and opens up his mouth to use his Boro breath in his hybrid form, and he just looks like an absolute beast. Like, I already said earlier that I can't wait for us to get to this point in the anime, but holy hell, like, I've said it before, I'll say it again, the rooftop fight is going to be ridiculous when we get to it in the anime. And so Kaido launches his Boro breath, and then while Luffy's on the recovering from it, Kaido launches himself up in the air, and he starts to use this move, which feels like it's got these black lightning bolts coming off of it, very similar to how we saw like advanced Conqueror's Haki, which we don't know if this is a real thing, advanced Conqueror's Haki, but kind of like during that fight between Roger and Whitebeard, how their weapons were literally like, they had this black energy coming off of it. And Kaido launches this attack down on Luffy, Conqueror of Three Worlds, Ragnaraku. And there we go. Here's why the chapter is called Naraku, because the move is Ragnarok, but it's the play on words combining the phrase Ragnarok with the phrase Naraku for hell. And he hits Luffy dead on, and everyone's like yelling out, like trying to react to this. Zoro's huffing and puffing, and we cut away from this immediately. We do not get to see this attack was so devastating. We don't get to see Luffy for the rest of the chapter, but we do go over to Kid, who has now constructed this little metallic box, and Big Mom kind of sees this happen and it's like, what's going on over there? And so Kid yells out to Law and is like, it's all good, it's ready. And Law opens up a room and does shambles, and Big Mom is like, what do they think they're doing? And then pop, Zeus goes away, and she's yelling out, Zeus, what's going on? And you see Law wasn't targeting Big Mom with his shambles, he was targeting Zeus, and he put Zeus inside the box. So Kid, using his powers, conducted a Faraday cage to contain Zeus inside it, and Zeus is yelling out, where am I at? It's all dark. And then Killer and Zoro immediately hop up. Can't waste any time here. It's time for the supernovas to attack. Killer yells out, he's like, can you manage Roanoa? And Zoro hops up and is like, I'd better. And then they run forward. Killer hooks on Napoleon with his Punisher blades. Zoro uses his the fire style, the Flame Rend style, to cut Prometheus in half, and then Big Mom falls down, and off of Prometheus, and Zoro continues just chopping away at him, saying, you're not going to get any time to revert. And he uses Flame Rend, Crossing of the Six Paths, absolutely dices up Prometheus into like a million pieces. Meanwhile, Killer is just still going at Napoleon with the Punisher blades, pushing him further and further away from Big Mom. And Napoleon is just yelling out, no, stop, I'm just a sword. And Big Mom is like calling out to everybody, like, come back to me, trying to get Prometheus back, trying to get Zeus back, trying to get Napoleon back. And you see all of them, and they're in trouble. They're yelling out, Mama, help us. And then this is where every single person who said that Killer is more impressive than Kid on the rooftop, every single person that said that Kid has not been impressing in this is Kid's moment to shine. Kid launches off these attacks at Big Mom called Punk Pistols. Reference to the Sex Pistols. I think it's the second reference to the Sex Pistols in his attack names, but that's neither here nor there. Launches Punk Pistols and hits Big Mom with these like metallic harpoons. And they're just bouncing off of her. And so she is just like, what's this? You think that, if you pry them away from me, that you actually have a chance? And she just goes running at him and punches him down, saying, you think you actually have a chance of beating me? And so Kid just takes point blank hit, fist right in his face from Big Mom. And then there's just no reaction to this. And then clunk, his big metallic arm grabs Big Mom. Kid just tanked an attack from Big Mom on his own, which I would argue is equally as impressive. It's a little less impressive. Let's be honest. I'm not going to say equally impressive. It's a little less impressive than tanking an attack from both of the Yonko, but he managed to take a point blank hit from Big Mom. That's pretty impressive. And he grabs Big Mom's arm and says, repel. And she starts flying off into the sky. And this is, I didn't mention this earlier, but I want to go back to it right now. When they launched their Conquest of the Sea attack, you get to see, specifically, in the frame where everyone's running and the attack hits, you get to see this gigantic boulder. And Oda, master of foreshadowing. There's so much little foreshadowing in this panel, because that gigantic boulder comes into play now. That panel out of context makes absolutely no sense. But right now, Kid goes repel. Big Mom starts flying away from him. Law, his room is still open, tacked, and he throws that boulder, that giant boulder that was created from Big Mom and Kaido's attack, hits Big Mom with it. And she starts, everyone as well that was saying that, like, why is Kid just throwing boulders at the Yonko? Or why is Law just throwing boulders at the Yonko? She even says this, Big Mom even references this, you little fool, what does it matter if you hit me with a rock? But she doesn't even get to say rock because she looks down below her. They have knocked her off of the rooftop, and she falls. And you actually see that she has fallen off the island. The entirety of Onigashima is gone, and she is falling, and she's just saying, I forgot there's nothing but sea below me. And you see Zeus yelling out, saying, Mama, and Law reacts, says if he can't fly down to help her, then that takes care of one of them. Big Mom is out of this fight. And we do get to see one little panel here that I need to mention, because right at the end here, Zoro's bandana is off. He is coughing up blood. So that tanking that attack clearly did a number on him. A lot of people are saying that he is down and out for this fight. I think that he is definitely extremely injured from tanking that hit, but I don't think that he's down and out for the fight. But holy hell, they actually took one down. And now there is, what are the options here real quick? So she says there's nothing but sea below her, but we know from a few chapters ago that we are actually pretty close to the flower capital. So I doubt that Big Mom is going to actually fall into the sea. If she does fall into the sea, we get Amnesia Big Mom back, which I don't think would be as bad as everyone thinks it's going to be, because at least it would make the scene where she got amnesia earlier in the arc kind of make sense, because it would have been foreshadowing to this moment where, like, maybe she gets amnesia and then she wants to go back to Elbaf, and that would completely remove her from the Wano situation, and then also set up the next arc where she would then go down in Elbaf. Because I have never thought, well, no, not never, I did kind of think at the beginning of like this fight from back in chapter 1000. I did think that maybe both of them were going down here, but now I do think that it would make sense for Big Mom to play a bigger part in Elbaf than she does in Wano. So if she does get amnesia, that could write her out of the story. She could want to go to Elbaf. She could fall to the Flower Capital and encounter the other Big Mom pirates, because right now it's just Perospero that is actually on Onigashima, and then she could have them leave and take them to Elbaf, and then maybe that sets us up for Perospero finally going down here in this arc. And then there's also the option that Kaido could fly down and get her. I don't know if that's going to be the case. I don't know how they're going to recover and continue going forward if that is the case. But I do think that this is now Big Mom gone. I think this is done for her. So yeah, that's the chapter. Like I said, it was crazy hype. I really, really liked it. And there's no break. So, I mean, for me, I'm recording this on Thursday, so the next chapter comes out in like 3 days for me. So I can't wait to see what that brings. And I've been doing pretty good at staying not spoiled from there. But yeah, so I don't really want to talk a lot about predictions, because I feel like right now my predictions haven't stayed the same, besides like what's going to happen with Big Mom, which I just talked about. I also don't think that Zoro is completely down and out here. I think that Zoro is definitely still in this, but maybe it's going to be kind of like a time limiter. Like, you know how in towards the end of Dressrosa, there was that moment where they had to slow down the fight because Luffy's Haki had run out and he couldn't use Gear 4th. I feel like that's going to kind of be the same thing for Zoro, because I personally believe, even though a lot of people think that Luffy's going to take down Kaido, I think that the combined might of Zoro and Luffy are going to take down Kaido. I think that Zoro has a huge part to play in the downfall of Kaido, and while I do think that it will be Luffy who defeats Kaido, I feel like it will be right after Zoro does something to weaken him. I don't know whether that is going to be awakening Enma or Wado Ichimonji into a Black Blade, or what's going to happen, but he is not down out from this fight. I don't know what the role of the other players are, but important thing to notice, we have Zeus now captured, which opens up the door for Nami being able to retrieve Zeus and using it to help win her fight, because remember, there was that moment where she was kind of lamenting that her lightning wasn't strong enough, and so she would need Zeus in order to have more powerful lightning. So yeah, like I said, predictions for the next couple chapters, I really, really think that we're kind of slowing down here, and I think that maybe we're going to start moving into the Kaido flashback within the next couple chapters. Maybe even next chapter we'll start off with catching up with what's going on with Luffy, and then because right now I think that Luffy as well is also out of this fight, and Zoro's really injured, so it'll just be Law, Kid, and Killer going after Kaido at this point. So yeah, maybe we'll get a little check-in. We'll continue dropping off some of the scabbards along the way with whoever they're going to end up fighting, and then Kaido flashback. But yeah, besides that, like I said, really hyped chapter. I was really excited to talk about it. I'm kind of bummed that I had some issues with my my equipment this week, but we're back. We're good. The video is recorded. So yeah, let me know in the comments what you guys thought about the chapter, if you guys liked it. Let me know what your predictions are for the rest of the Wano arc, or at least Act 3, because like I said, and I'm going to die on this grave, it's going to be a 5-act. It's going to be a 5-act story. Also, I should say that this chapter marks the 100th chapter of the Wano Country arc, which is insane. But yeah, so like I said, let me know down in the comments your thoughts and opinions. Check out the description for any of my social media and stuff. Go follow me on Twitter. Go like me on Facebook for any announcements. Like whenever a video is going to be late, I posted on Twitter talking about how this video was going to be late this week. So yeah, go follow me on my social medias. If you like the video, please like and subscribe. And until next time, I will see you in chapter 1010.